Darkness had settled over Whitechapel, but the true terror was yet to come. Following the brutal murders of Mary Ann Nichols and Annie Chapman, fear gripped the streets of Whitechapel like never before. Panic spread like wildfire. The public no longer felt safe, and their trust in the police began to wane. In an effort to restore order, a new inspector was assigned to the case, Frederick Aberline, a seasoned and respected detective. His arrival was seen by many as a beacon of hope, though the growing number of suspects and false arrests did little to reassure a terrified public. One such suspect, infamously known as Leather Apron, was arrested amid rising tensions. Though later cleared after providing a solid alibi, the incident only deepened the sense of unease and suspicion that hung in the air. For nearly 3 weeks, the killer vanished into silence. Then, without warning, he returned. But this time, he gave himself a name that would haunt the world for over a century. Jack the Ripper. The first victim of the night was Elizabeth Stride, a 45-year-old Swedish woman. She had moved to London in 1866 and, by 1888, was living in a lodging house on Flower and Dean Street. Occasionally, she worked as a prostitute to survive. On the night of September 30th, Elizabeth was seen with several men, but it was the testimony of a Hungarian Jew named Israel Schwartz that would later stand out. At 12:45 a.m., Schwartz claimed to have seen Elizabeth arguing with a man at the entrance of Dutfield's yard. The man was described as approximately 5'5" inches, around 30 years old, with a fresh complexion, dark hair, and a small brown mustache. He wore a long overcoat and a wide-brimmed black felt hat. As Schwartz watched from across the street, the man threw Elizabeth to the ground. Thinking it was a domestic dispute, Schwartz began to walk away. At that moment, another man appeared nearby, lighting a pipe. Suddenly, the attacker called out one word, Lipski. Was it a warning, a threat, a signal? Schwartz, unnerved, ran. He believed he was being followed, but the second man did not pursue. Moments later, Jack the Ripper struck again. At 1 a.m., local man Louis Diemschutz turned into Dutfield's yard with his horse and cart. His pony refused to go further. The yard was pitch black, and Diemschutz used his whip to probe the ground. He struck something. Assuming it was a drunk or sleeping woman, he sought help inside the nearby International Working Men's Club. When he returned with 2 men, Isaac Kozabrodsky and Morris Eagle, they made a grim discovery. It was Elizabeth Stride. Her throat had been slit, but there were no further mutilations. The police believed her killer may have been interrupted, possibly by Diemschutz himself. Dr. Blackwell, the attending physician, confirmed that her body was still warm. She had died within minutes of their arrival. Was Schwartz the only man to ever witness Jack the Ripper in the act? Had the killer been lurking in the shadows when help arrived, forced to flee before he could complete his ritual? And what of the word Lipski? Was it meant for the second man, or directed at Schwartz as a threat? While police were still reeling from the discovery of Stride's body, tragedy struck again. At 1:30 a.m., Catherine Eddowes was released from Bishopsgate Police Station, having been arrested earlier for public drunkenness. Sober and in good spirits, she offered a simple farewell. "Good night, old cock." 15 minutes later, PC Edward Watkins passed through Mitre Square and noticed nothing unusual. But on his return at 1:45 a.m., he found Catherine's body in a horrifying state. She had been butchered. Her throat was slashed, her earlobes had been severed, her abdomen was cut open, and her left kidney had been completely removed. Unlike Stride, there was no interruption here. The killer had time, and he used it savagely. Just days before the double event, on September 27th, A letter had arrived at the Central News Agency, scrawled in red ink. It was signed simply, "Yours truly, Jack the Ripper." It read, "I keep on hearing the police have caught me, but they won't fix me just yet. I love my work and want to start again. The next job I do, I shall clip the lady's ears off and send to the police just for jolly." The timing was chilling. Catherine Eddowes' ear had indeed been cut off, just as promised. Whether the letter was truly written by the killer or a morbid hoax remains debated. But one thing was certain: Jack the Ripper now had a name. 2 women, 2 murders, less than an hour apart, and a city paralyzed in terror. In the next episode, we uncover how the infamous Dear Boss letter unleashed a flood of correspondence, some real, others hoaxes, between the Ripper, the police, and the press, as the killer prepares to end his spree in the most grotesque way imaginable. Subscribe to Haunted Histories TV for more chilling tales, and until then, sleep tight.